Hi guys, 9.3, finding the rule using tables on page 529. Now a graph and a table are always very useful to find values for x and y. So in this case where we have x and y, and this is not to scale, remember, it's easy to see that when x is 3, y is 3. X is 3, y is 3. And when x is 0, y is 2. And so we can carry on looking at values. However, on this graph it's very hard to see what is x over here. What's the y value when x is there? The same with the table. If we have a table, we might only have a couple of values onto the table. So what I would like to know is I want to have the equation, the rule for this variable, for this line, for this function. And once I have the equation, I can put in any value for x and find out what was the value for y. Or I can put in any value for y and find out what is the value of x then. And this is why we want to find a rule for any given line or every given function. First thing that we need to know is that the rule must be true for every pair of coordinates on a table or a graph. So if we have come up with a rule, we have to test it with the points that they've given us to see if the rule applies to every point. If one point is off, then this rule is not the rule for the function. The common form of writing is y equals mx plus c. The m in this case is the coefficient of x, so when I speak about coefficient of x, or I refer to the coefficient of x, remember it's the value that's multiplied with x, and c is the constant value. Because there's no variable connected to that, that will be a constant value in this equation. So, it's a simple rule, and later on you'll understand why this works this way. If they give us a table, and they want us to find what is the equation from here, it's going to be pretty simple. The coefficient of x will be the increase in y as x increases by 1. Now that's a mouthful, but all it means is if I look at x value, I have to make sure from minus 2 to minus 1 that there's an increase of 1 every time. In other words, there must be plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. So for every time x increase, what happens with y? So we can see as x increase with 1, y increase with 2. X increase with 1, y increase with 2. And this will always be the same if this is applicable to the equation. This value that y is increasing with is then the coefficient of x. The constant will be the value of y when x is 0. So when x is 0, that is where y equals, that's a constant value. If, by any chance, the coefficient of x is negative, so look here, we go and we say x increases with 1. Wrong pen. X increases with 1. X increases with 1, so that is plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. Then what happens with y? As x goes up with 1, y comes down with 1. So the coefficient of x will be negative 1. Remember, we don't write a 1 over here. We don't say negative 1, we just say negative x. And then where x is 0, there we have the negative 1. The last thing that we need to know with this is the following. Sometimes we can't see where x is 0. Right, so we can still see that y is going up, x is going up plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. And then what happens with y? Y goes up with 2. So I know that y equals 2x. But what about the constant value? Now your book tells you a different answer, but a different way. But the easiest way for me is then to count back. So this is 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm going to go back and say 1, 0. Now if the difference between 5 and 7 is 2, the difference between 1's number and 5 is also plus 2, which means this must be 3. 3 plus 2 is 3 plus 2 is 5. 3 plus 2 or 3 minus 2 will tell us what this value is. In other words, this must be 1, so that this is plus 2 plus 2. Therefore, now I can see that my y value is 1, and this is then my y value, my c value, so it is plus 1. So you just added that up. So if the value of y when x is 0 is not given, then just count back. Let's go have some examples. They say find a rule for these tables for the values. So I'm going to start off by having the first one, and I'm just going to first make sure that if I look at my x value, that it goes up by plus 1. This is plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. What happens with 8? From minus 8 to minus 5 is plus 3, plus 3, plus 3, plus 3. And I can also see that where x is 0, y is minus 2. So my equation will be y equals, always y equals m, which is the coefficient. The coefficient is plus 3. So we're just going to say 3x, and my constant value is minus 2. Okay, same for this one. Is this plus 1, plus 1, plus 1? If it's not, you'll have to make a plan, but that will be in the problem solving questions, I'm pretty sure. So if that's plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, what happens with 5? From negative 5 to negative 7, that is minus 2, negative 2, negative 2, negative 2. So when I go in that direction, it's negative 2. If I go in the opposite direction, it is plus 2. Okay, so I know now that my constant value, I can write that down below, y equals negative 2x. Now all I want to know is where is x 0. So I am at 3, that's my smallest value. So to go down, I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, 0. If I go from left to right, so if I go from there to there, it's minus 2. If I go from there to there, it's plus 2. So minus 5 plus 2 will equal minus 3. This will be minus 3, minus 1, and this will be plus 1. So I add 2, or let's still work it from left to right. Plus 1 minus 2 is minus 1, minus 1 minus 3 is minus 2, and so we carry on. And that will give us then the value of x equals plus 1, and that is the value where x equals 0. That is where x equals 0. All good? The last example is where they actually give us a equation, and we have to go and find. Now the easiest way at this stage, there will be other ways later on. The easiest way I think is to find a table. Quickly set yourself up a table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say my table is going to be x, y, always x at the top. I'm going to start, the smallest one there is minus 1. Then I have minus 2 when x is, let's just change that, sorry. Minus 2 is the smallest value. X is negative 2. X is negative 1. X is 0. X is 1. X is 2. X is 3. When x is negative 2, oh, there's no 1. When x is negative 1, so when x is negative 1, y is negative 3. Negative 3. When x is 1, or when x is, sorry guys, messed that up. When x is negative 1, y is negative 3. So the negative 3 should be in here. When x is 0, y is negative 2. When x is 1, y is negative 1. When x is 2, y is 0. When x is 3, y is 1. So I'm going to check now. This is plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. So I know that as x increased by 1, what does y do? From minus 2 to from negative 3 to negative 2, from negative 2 to negative 1, all of that is also plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, which means that is the x value. So I can say y equals, my constant value is 1, so which means it is just x, and my y value is where x is 0, and where x is 0 it is negative 2x. Take away 2. Go to exercise 9C, do the questions according to your textbook, and ask your teacher for any questions.